Good day, everyone. Nature has always been our greatest teacher. It speaks not in words, but in elements: earth, water, fire, and air. Yet, how often do we listen? The Los Angeles wildfire was not just a blaze that turned trees to ash, it was a mirror reflecting who we are, how we live, and the future we are scripting. It scorched the land, but it also illuminated truths we must heed if we are to navigate what lies ahead. In the crackling of flames, the destruction of homes, and the smoky skies, there was a message powerful and unyielding. It wasn't merely about the fire. It was about the imbalance, the consequences of forgetting that we are a part of this planet, not apart from it. The wildfire is a tragedy, yes, but it's also a wake-up call, and with every challenge comes an opportunity to grow, to understand, to change. If we pay attention, this disaster can teach us profound lessons about how to walk forward, not just as individuals, but as a society, a species, and as custodians of this planet. Let's delve into these lessons and ignite a spark of awareness within ourselves, one that builds rather than burns. When we speak of life, we often perceive it as separate fragments: human life, animal life, plant life, the life of the earth itself. Yet, if we look deeply, we see that life is not divided by boundaries. It is a seamless web, intricately woven together, where every thread influences the other. The wildfire in Los Angeles was not just a natural calamity, it was a testament to this interconnectedness, a stark reminder of how profoundly we are intertwined to the environment and, by extension, to each other. Consider the air we breathe. The oxygen that fills our lungs does not originate from us, it is the gift of trees and plants, billions of tiny green factories working tirelessly to sustain life. When those trees burn as they did in the wildfire, it is not just the forest that suffers, it is us. The air becomes heavy with smoke, unbreathable, a direct reflection of the loss endured by the planet. In that moment, we are forced to recognize the intimate relationship between the environment and our well-being. What affects the forest affects the city, what affects the city affects the individual. But it goes beyond just the physical. The wildfire revealed the chain of consequences that ripple through ecosystems and societies alike. When the forest burns, habitats are destroyed. The animals that once thrived there are displaced, their lives thrown into chaos. And when these creatures wander into urban areas in search of food and shelter, it reminds us that there is no us, and them there is only we. The boundaries we imagine between the wild and the human-made world are illusions. The survival of one depends on the other. Even economically, the interconnectedness becomes glaringly apparent. The destruction of land leads to losses in agriculture, tourism, and livelihoods. Homes are reduced to rubble, and entire communities are uprooted. Yet these consequences are not confined to the immediate area. Resources from other regions are redirected to aid in recovery, affecting economies far beyond the site of the disaster. In a globalized world, the ripple effect of such events reaches across continents, showing us how deeply entwined we are, whether we acknowledge it or not. And then there is the climate. The wildfire did not happen in isolation. It was fueled by a planet out of balance. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and human activity have all contributed to the conditions that make such fires more frequent and more devastating. But this is not nature acting against us, it is nature responding to us. Every choice we make, every resource we consume, every bit of waste we generate feeds into this larger system. The fire, in many ways, was a reflection of our own actions, magnified and brought back to us in the form of flames. So, what does this interconnectedness teach us? It teaches us humility. It teaches that we are not separate from the earth, we are the earth. It teaches us that our survival is not a solitary endeavor but a collective one, dependent on the health and harmony of the entire ecosystem. Every tree that stands, every drop of water that flows, every animal that breathes is a part of the same life force that courses through us. To harm one is to harm all, including ourselves. The wildfire was a tragedy, yes, but it was also a message burning bright for all to see. We cannot continue to live as though we are the center of the universe, extracting and exploiting without regard for the consequences. We must shift our perspective and recognize that life is a circle, not a straight line. The well-being of one part ensures the well-being of the whole. In this realization lies hope. For if we are interconnected in our suffering, we are also interconnected in our solutions. By nurturing the planet, we nurture ourselves. By protecting the forest, we ensure clean air for all. By living with awareness and compassion, we create a ripple of positive change that extends far beyond our immediate surroundings. The fire may have burned the trees, but it also illuminated the truth: we are all one. And in that unity lies the power to create a future that is not only sustainable, but also beautiful, harmonious, and alive. Neglect is not an act of indifference. It is a slow, deliberate turning away from responsibility, a silent refusal to acknowledge what requires care and attention. The Los Angeles wildfire stands as a glaring testament to the cost of such neglect, revealing the cracks in our relationship with the environment, our systems, and ourselves. This tragedy was not simply an event born of nature's wrath. It was a culmination of years, even decades, of ignoring the delicate balance that sustains life on this planet. When we look at the wildfire, we must look beyond the immediate flames and smoke to see the story that led to it. The roots of this disaster were planted in our collective disregard for the environment. For too long, forests have been seen as commodities, their value measured not by the life they nurture but by the resources they yield. Trees that once stood as guardians of the land, holding the soil together and regulating the climate, have been cut down at an alarming rate. The remnants of these ecosystems, left fragmented and vulnerable, are no longer able to withstand the pressures of a changing climate. This neglect is not confined to forests alone. The land, overburdened by unsustainable agriculture and urban sprawl, has been stripped of its resilience. The soil, no longer rich and fertile, has become dry and brittle, unable to retain water. And when the rains fail, as they often do in an era of unpredictable weather patterns, the land becomes a tinderbox, waiting for a single spark to ignite a catastrophe. The wildfire was not just a result of one bad season, it was the result of years of imbalance, of taking more than we gave back. But the consequences of neglect are not limited to the natural world. They extend into the very systems we have built to protect ourselves. Emergency response mechanisms, infrastructure, and urban planning, all these were found wanting in the face of the wildfire. For years, warnings about the increasing frequency and intensity of wildfires due to climate change were met with insufficient action. Plans were made, but they remained on paper. Budgets were allocated, but they were never enough. And so, when the fire came, it overwhelmed everything in its path, exposing the fragility of the systems we believed would keep us safe. Then there is the human element, the lives disrupted, the homes destroyed, the communities fractured. The wildfire did not discriminate, it consumed everything in its path, leaving behind a trail of devastation that will take years to heal. Families lost not just their possessions, but their sense of security, their connection to the places they called home. The emotional toll of such a disaster cannot be quantified, but it is a weight that will be carried by those affected for a lifetime. And this too is a consequence of neglect, the neglect of people, of their needs, of the vulnerabilities that exist within every community. Yet, perhaps the most profound consequence of neglect is the erosion of our relationship with nature. For too long, we have seen ourselves as separate from the natural world, as masters of a resource that exists solely for our benefit. This perspective has blinded us to the reality that we are not separate at all. We are part of the same system, and when one part suffers, the whole suffers. The wildfire was not nature's way of punishing us, it was nature's way of showing us the result of our choices, of holding up a mirror to our actions. The question now is, will we continue to neglect, or will we learn? Will we see this disaster as just a story, well, another day, as the wake-up call it truly is? The consequences of neglect are not distant, they are here and they are, but just as neglect has brought us to this point, attention, care, and action can lead us out of it. The land can heal, the systems can be rebuilt, and the balance can be restored, but only if we choose to see, to listen, and to act. In every tragedy lies an opportunity to change. The wildfire has shown us the price of neglect. Let it also show us the value of care, of responsibility, and of living in harmony with the world around us. The future is not written, it is waiting for us to write it, and the pen is in our hands. Let us not waste this chance to turn the page. Life, in its essence, is a flow constantly changing, never static. Yet, as human beings, we often cling to the illusion of permanence. We hold on to what feels secure and resist change, fearing the unknown. The Los Angeles wildfire tore through that illusion with fierce certainty. It reminded us that nothing in this world, no matter how solid or unshakable it seems, is immune to the forces of impermanence. But even as it left destruction in its wake, it also carried a message of renewal, a profound truth that life, no matter how broken, finds a way to begin again. Impermanence is a truth woven into the very fabric of existence. Everything we see, everything we build, everything we hold dear is subject to change. The wildfire demonstrated this with unrelenting clarity. Homes that had stood for decades were reduced to ashes in a matter of hours. Landscapes that once teemed with life were blackened and barren. It was a stark reminder that the structures we create, both physical and emotional, are not as enduring as we like to believe. This realization can be unsettling. To see something vanish that we thought would last forever shakes the very ground beneath us. But impermanence is not a curse, it is a condition of life. In fact, it is because things are impermanent that renewal becomes possible. The fire, destructive as it was, also cleared the way for new beginnings. Seeds that lay dormant in the soil, waiting for such an event, were suddenly given the chance to sprout. Nutrients locked within the fallen leaves and trees were released into the earth, nourishing it for the next cycle of growth. What seemed like an end was, in truth, a beginning. This duality, the coexistence of destruction and creation, is a fundamental principle of life. Nature understands this deeply. It does not resist change, it embraces it, using it as a mechanism to adapt, to evolve, to thrive. The fire itself, though devastating in scale, is part of this natural cycle. For millennia, ecosystems have relied on periodic fires to maintain their health. Fires clear away the old and make room for the new, fostering diversity and resilience. It is only when these natural processes are disrupted by human interference, by climate imbalance, that they become catastrophic. The lesson for us is clear. We too must learn to embrace impermanence. Clinging to the past, resisting change, or denying the reality of life's transience only leads to suffering. The wildfire reminds us that loss, though painful, is an integral part of growth. It is through letting go that we create space for something new to emerge. The ash left behind by the fire is not just a symbol of destruction, it is also the foundation for renewal. In time, the blackened earth will give rise to vibrant greenery, the forest will heal, and life will flourish once again. On a personal level, this truth challenges us to reevaluate our relationship with loss and change. When we experience loss, whether it is the loss of a home, a loved one, or a sense of security, it can feel like the end of the world. Yet, within every ending lies the seed of a new beginning. The wildfire forces us to confront this reality. It shows us that while we may not have control over the forces of impermanence, we do have control over how we respond to them. Will we crumble in the face of change, or will we rise from the ashes, renewed and resilient? Renewal is not a passive process, it requires effort, intention and faith. After the fire, communities came together to rebuild, to support one another, to restore what was lost. This is the human spirit at its best, turning adversity into opportunity, using destruction as a catalyst for growth. It is a reminder that renewal is not just about nature, it is about us. It is about finding the strength to move forward, to rebuild, and to reimagine a better future. In the broader context, the wildfire challenges us to rethink how we live. Are we building lives and systems that are adaptable, that can withstand the inevitability of change? Or are we constructing fragile illusions of permanence destined to crumble at the first sign of adversity? Impermanence is not something to fear, it is something to prepare for, to work with, to learn from. By aligning ourselves with this truth, we can create lives and communities that are not only resilient but also deeply rooted in the cycles of renewal that sustain all life. Ultimately, impermanence and renewal are not opposing forces, they are two sides of the same coin. The wildfire may have been a moment of devastation, but it was also a moment of transformation. It cleared the way for something new, something alive, something that will one day thrive. This is the rhythm of life: endings and beginnings, destruction and creation, impermanence and renewal. It is a rhythm that, if we listen closely, can teach us how to live not in fear of change, but in harmony with it. So let us take this lesson to heart. Let us not resist the inevitability of impermanence, but embrace it as the force that makes renewal possible. For in every end lies a beginning, and in every ash lies the promise of life. The fire may have burned, but it did not destroy. It simply reminded us of what has always been true: life goes on, and from the ashes it begins again. As human beings, we build much of our lives on assumptions about stability, safety, permanence, and predictability. We assume that the structures around us will hold, that the systems we rely on will endure, and that tomorrow will look much like today. Yet the Los Angeles wildfire shattered these assumptions in a single breath of wind, reminding us just how fragile they truly are. Assumptions are comforting. They provide a sense of order in a world that is inherently uncertain. We assume that our homes, built of concrete and wood, will protect us. We assume that the roads we drive on will always lead us safely to our destinations. We assume that the routines we follow will continue uninterrupted. But the wildfire exposed the hollowness of these beliefs. In an instant, homes that had stood for decades were consumed by flames. Roads that once connected communities became barriers of impassable smoke and debris, and routines were replaced by chaos as thousands were forced to flee with little more than the clothes on their backs. The fragility of our assumptions is not limited to physical structures. It extends to our societal systems as well. We assume that emergency services will always be able to respond, that resources will be available when we need them, and that the systems we put in place will function smoothly under pressure. Yet, the wildfire revealed the cracks in these systems. Firefighters, stretched thin and overwhelmed, struggled to contain the blaze. Evacuation plans, though meticulously designed on paper, fell apart in the face of the fire's unpredictable fury. Shelters meant to provide refuge became overcrowded and undersupplied. These failures were not just logical, they were the consequences of assuming that the worst-case scenario would never come to pass. But perhaps the most profound assumptions are the ones we make about nature itself. For generations, we have assumed that the natural world exists to serve us, that it will bend to our will and adapt to our desires. We assume that the forests, rivers, and skies will continue to provide for us, no matter how much we take or how carelessly we act. The wildfire was nature's way of challenging these assumptions. It reminded us that we are not separate from the environment, but deeply entwined with it. When we disrupt the balance of nature through deforestation, climate change, and unsustainable practices, we set the stage for disasters like the wildfire. Nature does not bend to our assumptions, it responds to our actions. At a deeper level, the fragility of assumptions asks us to confront our own vulnerability. We live under the illusion that we are in control, that we can predict and manage every aspect of our lives. Yet the wildfire showed us just how quickly that illusion can crumble. In the face of the fire, wealth, status, and technology offered little protection. The flames did not discriminate, they consumed everything in their path, reducing the grandest homes and the simplest dwellings to the same ash. This humbling reality is a stark reminder that we are all subject to the forces of impermanence and unpredictability. So, what do we do with this realization? Do we retreat into fear, paralyzed by the uncertainty of life? Or do we use it as an opportunity to grow, to re-examine the foundations of our assumptions and build something stronger? The fragility of assumptions is not a condemnation, it is an invitation. It invites us to let go of the illusions that bind us and to embrace a deeper truth, that life is not meant to be controlled or predicted, but lived with awareness and adaptability. One of the most valuable lessons the wildfire teaches us is the importance of preparation. While we cannot predict every outcome, we can create systems and practices that are flexible and resilient. This means not just planning for the best-case scenario, but preparing for the worst. It means investing in sustainable infrastructure, strengthening community networks, and prioritizing the health of the environment. It means recognizing that our assumptions are not guarantees and that true security comes not from denial but from awareness and action. Another lesson lies in the power of perspective. When assumptions are stripped away, we are left with the raw reality of life, its beauty, its fragility, and its interconnectedness. The wildfire, for all its destruction, brought people together in ways that transcended social and cultural divides. Strangers became allies, neighbors became family, and communities discovered a strength they didn't know they had. In this way, the fragility of assumptions becomes an opportunity to reconnect with what truly matters: our relationships, our resilience, and our shared humanity. Finally, the wildfire challenges us to cultivate a mindset of humility. To assume is to claim certainty, but life is anything but certain. Humility allows us to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge and control. It encourages us to approach life with curiosity rather than complacency, to question rather than assume, and to adapt rather than resist. In this way, humility becomes a tool not just for surviving change, but for thriving within it. The fragility of assumptions is not a weakness, it is a truth. It reminds us that life is dynamic, that the ground beneath us is always shifting, and that our strength lies not in resisting this reality, but in embracing it. The wildfire, though devastating, offered us this lesson in the starkest of terms. It showed us that assumptions, no matter how comforting, are no match for the unpredictability of life. But it also showed us that when assumptions fall away, we are left with something far more powerful: the opportunity to adapt, to learn, and to grow. In the end, the wildfire was not just a tragedy, it was a teacher. It challenged us to see beyond our illusions and to recognize the fragile beauty of the world we inhabit. It reminded us that while we cannot control everything, we can choose how we respond. And in that choice lies the possibility of transformation, not just for ourselves, but for the future we share. As individuals, it is natural to view the world through the lens of our own lives, our own needs, and our own immediate surroundings. But the Los Angeles wildfire served as a powerful reminder that our responsibilities stretch far beyond the boundaries of personal comfort or convenience. It illuminated the interconnected nature of existence and underscored that the choices we make as individuals ripple outward, affecting not just our lives, but the lives of others, the environment, and future generations. Responsibility, therefore, is not a narrow obligation. It is a vast and encompassing commitment to something greater than ourselves. When the wildfires swept through the hills and communities of Los Angeles, it didn't just destroy homes and forests, it upended lives, displaced animals, polluted the air, and altered the landscape for years to come. It forced us to confront the reality that our actions or inactions play a role in shaping these outcomes. Whether through our consumption patterns, our disregard for sustainable practices, or our failure to address the climate crisis with urgency, the disaster highlighted how deeply our choices are entwined with the world around us. Responsibility, then, is not simply a burden we carry, it is a privilege and an opportunity to make a meaningful impact on the collective whole. At the heart of this expanded sense of responsibility is the recognition that we are not isolated beings. Our existence is inextricably linked to the ecosystems that sustain us, the communities that support us, and the generations that follow us. When we pollute the air, it is not just the skies above us that suffer, it is the health of every living being that breathes that air. When we clear forests for urban expansion, it is not just the trees that are lost, it is the intricate web of life that depends on those trees, from the soil beneath to the creatures above. And when we ignore the warming of the planet, it is not just distant glaciers or far-off islands that are affected, it is every corner of the earth, including our own. Responsibility beyond ourselves begins with this understanding of interconnectedness. It asks us to shift our perspective from what do I need to what does the whole need. This is not an easy shift, for it requires us to look beyond our immediate desires and conveniences. It calls for a willingness to consider the long-term consequences of our actions, to weigh the needs of others alongside our own, and to act not out of self-interest but out of a deeper sense of care and stewardship. Stewardship is a key aspect of this responsibility. The earth is not something we own, it is something we are entrusted with. We are its careters, not its masters. This means that our actions should not be driven by the question, what can I take? But by the question, what can I give back? When we adopt this mindset, we begin to see our relationship with the planet as a partnership rather than a one-sided transaction. We take only what we need, we give back what we can, and we ensure that the balance is preserved for those who come after us. This sense of stewardship extends not just to the environment but to our fellow human beings. The wildfire brought this truth into sharp focus as communities rallied together to support one another in the face of devastation. Strangers opened their doors to evacuees, volunteers provided food and supplies, and firefighters risked their lives to protect homes that were not their own. These acts of selflessness remind us that our responsibilities do not end at our front doors. They extend to our neighbors, to our communities, and to anyone in need. When we act with compassion and solidarity, we honor this responsibility and create a world that is stronger, more resilient, and more humane. But responsibility beyond ourselves also requires us to think about the future. It is not enough to respond to crises as they arise, we must work to prevent them from happening in the first place. This means addressing the root causes of disasters like the wildfire, climate change, deforestation, unsustainable development, and taking bold, decisive action to mitigate their impact. It means investing in renewable energy, protecting natural habitats, and designing cities that are in harmony with the environment. It means recognizing that the choices we make today will shape the world that our children and grandchildren inherit. At its core, this expanded sense of responsibility is about living with awareness. It is about understanding that every decision, no matter how small, carries weight. The food we eat, the products we buy, the energy we consume, all of these choices have consequences that extend far beyond ourselves. When we live with this awareness, we begin to see the power we hold to create positive change. We realize that responsibility is not a limitation, but a profound opportunity to contribute to the well-being of the whole. The Los Angeles wildfire, as devastating as it was, offers us a chance to reflect on this responsibility. It challenges us to look beyond the smoke and ashes and ask ourselves, what can we do differently? How can we live in a way that honors the interconnectedness of life? How can we act not just for ourselves, but for the world around us? These are not easy questions, but they are essential ones. For it is only when we embrace responsibility beyond ourselves that we can begin to address the challenges of our time and build a future that is sustainable, equitable, and just. Ultimately, responsibility is not about perfection, it is about intention. It is about striving to do better, to be better, not just for ourselves, but for everything and everyone we are connected to. The wildfire was a painful reminder of what happens when we neglect this responsibility. But it was also a call to action, a chance to rise from the ashes with renewed purpose and commitment. Let us heed that call, for the stakes could not be higher and the opportunity could not be greater. In taking responsibility beyond ourselves, we honor the interconnectedness of life and create a legacy of care, compassion, and resilience for generations to come. Nature, in all its vastness and diversity, is an unyielding testament to resilience. It has faced the mightiest storms, the harshest droughts, and the most devastating fires, yet it continues to endure, adapt, and regenerate. The Los Angeles wildfire, with its fiery wrath and widespread destruction, seemed at first to be an overwhelming force of devastation. But look closer, and you will see that even in destruction, nature does not yield, it transforms. The resilience of nature is not just a passive ability to recover, it is an active, vibrant force that finds ways to thrive in the face of adversity. In the immediate aftermath of the wildfire, the landscape was a picture of desolation. Hills that had once been lush and green were reduced to ash-covered slopes. Trees that had stood for decades were reduced to charred skeletons, and the air carried the acrid smell of smoke and loss. It was easy in those moments to see only destruction, but nature's story is never one of finality. It is a story of cycles, of renewal, of rebirth. Even as the ground smoldered, the seeds of tomorrow's forests were already stirring beneath the surface. Nature's resilience is embedded in its very design. Certain species of plants and trees, for instance, have evolved to depend on fire for their regeneration. The heat from the flames cracks open their seeds, allowing them to sprout and take root in the nutrient-rich ash left behind. Wildflowers that had lain dormant for years in the soil suddenly burst forth, painting the blackened earth with vibrant colors. The fire, while destructive to some, becomes a catalyst for growth for others. This is the brilliance of nature. It transforms adversity into opportunity, destruction into creation. This cycle of resilience extends beyond the visible landscape. The wildlife displaced by the fire begins its return, adapting to the altered environment. Birds find new perches among the scorched branches, insects thrive in the freshly disturbed soil, and mammals navigate the changed terrain with a quiet determination. Nature does not resist change, it flows with it. It absorbs the shock, adapts, and eventually flourishes in forms that are often more diverse and robust than before. This resilience is not born out of invincibility but out of adaptability. Nature does not cling to what was, it embraces what is and evolves with it. A forest may burn, but it will grow again, often stronger than before. The ecosystems that emerge after such events are often more diverse, more resilient to future challenges. The fire clears away the old, the weak, and the diseased, making room for the new and the vibrant. It is a process that has repeated itself for millennia, a testament to the endurance of life. But nature's resilience is not infinite. While it has the capacity to heal, to regenerate, and to adapt, it can only do so when given the space and time it needs. The wildfire reminds us that while nature can recover from the blows it endures, those blows must not come faster than its ability to respond. Climate change, deforestation, and other human-driven impacts are accelerating these events, tipping the scales against nature's favor. Fires that were once natural and cyclical are now more frequent, more intense, and more widespread, pushing ecosystems to their breaking point. Herein lies the challenge and the opportunity for us. The resilience of nature is not just a marvel to observe, it is a call to action. It teaches us that recovery and renewal are possible even in the face of profound loss, but it also demands that we become active participants in this process. We cannot take nature's resilience for granted. We must nurture it, protect it, and allow it the room it needs to thrive. This begins with how we live. Our choice is what we consume, how we build, how we interact with the environment have a direct impact on nature's ability to recover. When we overexploit, pollute, or disrupt the delicate balance of ecosystems, we undermine the very processes that allow nature to heal. But when we act with care, when we prioritize sustainability and stewardship, we become allies in nature's resilience. We give it the chance not just to survive, but to flourish. Resilience is also a lesson for humanity. Nature does not resist change, it adapts, it transforms, it finds new ways to thrive. In this, we find a powerful parallel for our own lives. The wildfire did not just test the resilience of nature, it tested the resilience of communities, of individuals, of systems. Just as the forest rebuilds itself from the ashes, so too can we rise from the challenges we face. Nature's resilience is a mirror, showing us that strength lies not in avoiding adversity, but in embracing it, learning from it, and growing through it. And so, the story of the Los Angeles wildfire is not just a story of loss, it is a story of renewal. It is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, life finds a way to continue. The blackened earth, the charred trees, the empty skies, they are not the end. They are the beginning of a new chapter, one that holds the promise of growth, of renewal, and of resilience. Nature's resilience is a quiet but profound force. It does not demand attention, but it inspires awe. It shows us that even when all seems lost, there is always the potential for rebirth. It challenges us to be better stewards of the world we inhabit, to act with care and foresight, and to align our lives with the cycles that sustain life. In the end, the resilience of nature is not just something to marvel at, it is something to learn from. It is a testament to the enduring power of life, a reminder that no matter how great the challenge, renewal is always possible. The wildfire may have left scars on the land, but it has not defeated it. From the ashes, life will rise again, stronger, more vibrant, and more resilient than before. This is the promise of nature, and it is a promise that carries hope for us all. The wildfire that swept through Los Angeles was not just an event of destruction, it was a profound lesson in the significance of preparation. The images of charred homes, uprooted families, and ravaged landscapes stand as stark reminders of what can happen when we underestimate the importance of being ready for what life may bring. Preparation is not simply about anticipating a specific event. It is a mindset, a way of living that acknowledges uncertainty and equips us to navigate its challenges with clarity, resilience, and wisdom. Preparation begins with awareness. To prepare for something, we must first accept its possibility. This may seem simple, but it is often the hardest step. Many of us live under the illusion that disasters happen to others, that the worst-case scenario is a distant possibility, not a near certainty. We cling to the hope that things will remain as they are, ignoring the signs that suggest otherwise. But the wildfire shattered this illusion, reminding us that disaster does not wait for us to be ready. It comes when it will, whether we expect it or not. Preparation, therefore, requires us to confront the uncomfortable truth of uncertainty and accept that we are not immune to its reach. Preparation is not a passive act, it is an active and ongoing process. It involves foresight, planning, and the willingness to act even when the threat is not immediate. Before the wildfire, there were countless opportunities to prepare: warnings about dry conditions, reports of high winds, and recommendations for fire-resistant construction. Yet, for many, these signals went unheeded. It is not enough to know the risks, we must take steps to mitigate them. This means creating defensible spaces around homes, investing in infrastructure that can withstand disasters, and ensuring that emergency plans are not just theoretical but actionable. On a personal level, preparation involves cultivating habits that make us more resilient in the face of challenges. It means being mindful of our resources, storing emergency supplies, keeping important documents accessible, and knowing evacuation routes. It means practicing scenarios before they become realities so that when the time comes, panic does not override reason. Preparation is not just about securing physical safety, it is about fostering mental and emotional readiness. The ability to remain calm under pressure, to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances, and to make clear decisions in moments of crisis are skills that can be cultivated through preparation. Communities, too, have a role to play in preparation. The wildfire revealed not just individual vulnerabilities, but systemic ones. Emergency services were stretched thin, evacuation centers were overwhelmed, and communication systems faltered under the strain. These challenges highlight the need for collective preparation, investing in resources, strengthening infrastructure, and ensuring that systems are robust enough to withstand the pressures of a disaster. Preparation is not just an individual responsibility, it is a shared commitment that binds communities together. When we prepare as a collective, we create networks of support that can weather even the most severe storms. The importance of preparation extends beyond the immediate aftermath of a disaster. It is not just about survival, it is about recovery and renewal. When we are prepared, we are better equipped to rebuild, to adapt, and to move forward. The wildfire, for all its destruction, was not the end of the story. It was a turning point, an opportunity to learn and grow. Those who had prepared found themselves in a stronger position to recover, whether through having insurance policies in place, understanding the steps for rebuilding, or having the mental fortitude to face the challenges ahead. Preparation is also a form of respect for the forces of nature, for the unpredictability of life, and for the interconnectedness of our world. The wildfire was a stark reminder of how small we are in the face of nature's power. But preparation allows us to meet that power with humility and strength. It is not about controlling nature, but about coexisting with it, understanding its rhythms and respecting its boundaries. When we prepare, we acknowledge that we are part of a larger whole, and we act in ways that honor that connection. Moreover, preparation has a profound psychological impact. It transforms fear into empowerment. When we are unprepared, uncertainty breeds anxiety and helplessness. But when we take steps to prepare, we reclaim a sense of agency. We may not be able to prevent disasters, but we can control how we respond to them. Preparation gives us the confidence to face challenges head-on, knowing that we have done what we can to withstand their impact. The wildfire also highlighted the importance of preparation in the context of climate change. As the planet warms and extreme weather events become more frequent, preparation is no longer optional, it is essential. We must prepare not just for individual events but for a future shaped by greater uncertainty and volatility. This means rethinking how we build our cities, manage our resources, and structure our lives. It means adopting sustainable practices, reducing our environmental impact, and creating systems that are adaptable and resilient. Preparation in this sense is not just about reacting to crises, it is about proactively shaping a more sustainable and equitable future. Ultimately, the importance of preparation lies in its ability to transform adversity into opportunity. When we prepare, we are not just bracing for impact, we are positioning ourselves to rise stronger in the aftermath. The wildfire, though devastating, offered a chance to reflect on what it means to be ready not just for fires, but for all of life's uncertainties. It reminded us that preparation is not a one-time effort, but a lifelong practice, one that requires vigilance, adaptability, and a willingness to learn. Preparation is the bridge between uncertainty and resilience. It is the act of taking responsibility for our future, of acknowledging the risks we face, and meeting them with courage and foresight. The wildfire taught us that while we cannot control the winds or the flames, we can control how we respond. And in that response lies the potential not just to survive but to thrive. Let us embrace the lessons of preparation, not out of fear but out of a deep respect for the challenges and opportunities that life presents. For when we are prepared, we are not just ready for the unexpected, we are ready to build a future that is stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before.